Hey folks, today I've got another coffee review courtesy of MistoBox, the subscription service that I'm currently using, or I should say at least one of the coffee subscriptions I'm currently using. And this is the Murang'a, well, it's called the Kiriani AB, and it's from Murang'a, Kenya. And it comes from Tandem Coffee Roasters in Portland, wait for it, Maine. Sorry, had to. It is of the SL28 and SL34 varietals. It's a fully washed coffee. Tasting notes, according to Tandem, are grapefruit, vanilla, and blackberry. Comes in this 12-ounce bag here. Let's check out the beans, which to me, and I'm just remembering this because I'm opening this right now, but this coffee had one of the most delicious aromas that I can remember in recent memory. So, for whatever that's worth, and to me, that's really important. Here, there's a look. Hopefully I get it on camera enough for you to see. I'm just going to take a peek to make sure I'm not showing you. Oh, there we go. So yeah, those are the beans. SL34, SL28 varietal. And you can see that the roast, or maybe you can't because this lighting is terrible, but you can see that it is a very light roast. I'd say probably cinnamon in terms of the roast level. Oh boy, they smell delicious, and you can really get a good sense for the aroma, the brewed aroma, if you brew through an AeroPress. Usually I find that the aroma is most heightened when you do that first pour in the AeroPress, give it a nice turbulent wiggle, and get your nose in the cylinder so you can really take in that delicious aroma of the freshly brewed coffee. This one really stood out under those circumstances. So let me just tell you a little bit about the coffee based off of what's on the website. So this is the Kenya Kiriani AB, brought to you by Tandem Coffee Roasters. This fully washed coffee was sourced from the growing region of Murang'a in Kenya and was produced by various smallholder producers at 1,680 meters above sea level. And according to MistoBox, they write, "We love this coffee brewed as pour over, like the Chemex or V60." And my screen went black. To highlight its nuanced notes of blackberry, grapefruit, vanilla, and complex overall quality. So that's what I know about it. The AB distinction I talked about, kind of Kenyan coffee grading processes. Last time I reviewed a Kenyan coffee, it was, I can't remember, but it was an AA. So that's just really a size classification. AB is the second biggest sizing classification. So when the coffee goes through a sieve, AA would be the largest holes in the sieve, so the largest beans, and AB is going to be the second largest. And traditionally, the larger the beans in Kenya, the higher the price at the auctions. So this is kind of second here, but they're saying, and they being the overall coffee community is saying, that AB coffees are actually sometimes more complex than AAs. So these ABs could potentially be better. So sometimes you could find, I don't want to say a diamond in the rough in an AB, but it's good to try them out just as it is AAs and whatever other classification of Kenyan coffees are available. So this particular one, I was in agreement in terms of most of the tasting notes. I found that the coffee really had a high level of citrusy acidity. Whether that was grapefruit or not, I don't know. To me, it was more like lemon, but the blackberry I didn't pick up. I can't say that I did. I did pick up the vanilla element more in the aftertaste, as well as cinnamon in the aftertaste as well. So it had a little bit of complexity in terms of the balance. Not as much. Most of the time it was really high acidity. Some people might find it a little bit too much, to the point where the sweetness is not as present. But I found that if you extracted for longer periods, particularly you went up with your grind, maybe more than you're accustomed to, did really well. So an example of this would be with the Chemex. I think I brewed around 30 grams, 720 grams of water. Let's see, that doesn't sound right. Okay, yeah, 40 grams of coffee in, 720 grams of water, and it took me about 5.5 minutes to brew with that. And I actually had a really nice pot of coffee with those parameters, which was surprising because that's a pretty long extraction time. Normally I like to go between no more than 4 minutes for pour overs, and I know that this is more coffee, so it's more acceptable to go a little bit longer, but that is still a pretty long extraction time. But it did really well, and that's what brought out that cinnamon, the more of the balance. So one thing that was really interesting was the V60. Specifically, what I normally do, so I have two Haria V60s. One of them comes with a pour over stand, or I should say it's attached to a pour over stand. The other one is just the standard Haria V60 that you would buy from, say, Amazon. So what I normally do with the V60 is I put it on top of my mug, which is on top of my gram scale. I weigh out my coffee and I weigh out my water. That way I can calculate the ratios and just really be on top of every detail. But I simultaneously brewed with the pour over stand, and I wasn't using a scale except to measure the coffee in that one. So if you can picture the scene, on the left I have a pour over. I guess this is, maybe you're right, but I've got a pour over stand that basically has the mug underneath the cone, and I'll show you that later on. So that was one of them, and there's no scale involved in actually doing the pour over, so I'm not measuring my yield in any way except visually. And on the other side, I am measuring my yield. I'm tracking how much water I'm using. It turned out that the one that I was eyeballing with the pour over stand was much better. It had much more body, much more sweetness, and overall flavor. The other one that I actually measured out the water using an 18:1 ratio, it's a little bit more bland. So I think what I learned from that is that I was maybe focusing a little bit too much on getting the right amount of water. So by hitting those target amounts of water, I think I sped up the brew process a little bit too much when I used the scale. Whereas with the pour over stand, I was able to slow down the pour over rate, get a better cup of coffee. So to summarize that long rambling experiment there, what you want to do is take your time with this one. Really have a nice controlled slow pour. Maybe go a little bit finer on the grind than you're accustomed to, and you'll get a nice cup of coffee with this. I also wanted to mention that I brewed with espresso, and I made a mocha with this actually that came out really nicely. I felt like the citrusy element of the espresso worked really well in conjunction with the chocolate taste that it was lacking, but that I added to it by making a mocha, obviously. This mocha has steamed chocolate milk added to an espresso shot. So if you're making those types of drinks, those lattes and even especially a mocha, this did well. And as espresso shots themselves, it's going to be very high acidity, not a lot of those darker notes that I personally prefer in my espresso shots. So once again, this is the Kiriani AB, and it's from Tandem Coffee Roasters. I got it from my Misto Box coffee subscription. Nice acidity and pretty good balance in terms of forgiveness. I think it's pretty tricky to dial in, so you might waste some beans with this one, but overall I'd say that this was a solid option, especially if you like to use drip methods and like that citrusy acidity. So anyway, if you liked this review, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, don't give me a thumbs down, or you can, but leave a comment below and let me know what you want to hear in the next coffee review if you stick around for that. And feel free to subscribe. I do these every Sunday. There's a new video, and I might bump that up later on, but for now that's the schedule. So thanks again for watching, and check it out. Tandem Coffee Roasters Kiriani AB.